The federal government has been told to step up after declining to pay for half of a $112 million scheme to help flood-affected NSW locals repair their homes. Key points. The state government announces up to $20,000 benefits for flood-affected residents. The state government announces up to $20,000 benefits for flood-affected residents. The ABC understands the federal government declined to pay half of the $112 million scheme. The ABC understands the federal government declined to pay half of the $112 million scheme. Lismore member Janelle Saffin said the Commonwealth should step up. Premier Dominic Perrottet today announced a cash grant of up to $20,000 can be claimed by uninsured residents to help repair their home. Lismore MP Janelle Saffin this afternoon said while the state government announcement was a good start, she wanted the federal government to step up some more. I've asked for $50,000, that would require the federal government to be involved as well, it's a bit too slow. But I welcome the today and I said to the Premier that is a good start, Ms. Saffin said. Mr. Perrottet said he would appreciate any extra financial support from the federal government. I will always ask for as much financial support as we can get from the federal government, but the bottom line for me is that I have a responsibility as Premier of the state to provide that support to help people get back on their feet, and that is what I'm going to do, he said. The ABC understands the NSW government had asked the Commonwealth to pay for half of the scheme, but it declined. Families in Ballina, Byron, Clarence Valley, Kyogle, Lismore, Richmond Valley and Tweed local government areas in the state's north will benefit from the cash, as will households in the Hawkesbury in Sydney's northwest. The funds will only be available to owners or renters who are not insured and those who have not claimed the disaster relief grant. The Premier is spending his first day back from parental leave touring flood-affected Lismore in the state's north. Uncertainty still front of mind for locals. Lismore resident Lauren de Groot has been left homeless and will be forced to leave her temporary accommodation in a caravan park when holidaymakers start to arrive. During that time, I don't know where I will go, she said. I'm still trying to find somewhere appropriate for myself and my daughter that will allow us to stay. Ms. de Groot said she desperately wanted to see more housing support. I have a friend who is thrilled at the possibility of getting some land without power or water, she said. What are we living in, if a single parent has to live on a block of land in a tent through winter? It's disgusting. M to mute, left and right arrows to seek, up and down arrows for volume. Watch 5 minutes 14 seconds 5M, no government awareness. Flood-affected residents plea for support. Brad Ricard, who has 3 hospitality businesses in Lismore, said there were too many moving parts to the flood recovery to know when, or if, his businesses would reopen. There's no word on insurance, there's radio silence from the government, there's landlords involved, business owners, staff, you've got people homeless, he said. How do you prioritize anything? With no certainty, Mr. Ricard said he had to tell many of his 30 staff to look for other employment. He said it was a heartbreaking decision akin to breaking up a family. Even if we were gung-ho and wanted to jump straight back into business, the reality is there's no power. The buildings need extensive repairs, like multiple trades over an extended period of time, he said. And that's hundreds of businesses and hundreds of business owners. Farmer Michael Lynch talking to Premier Perrottet, Deputy Premier Paul Toole and Lismore MP Janelle Saffin. On the streets of Lismore, Farmer Michael Lynch from nearby Dunoon said his grandmother's farm had been devastated by the floods. As the Premier and Deputy Premier walked through Lismore meeting locals, Mr. Lynch told Mr. Perrottet 5 acres of land had been destroyed by landslides. The house has survived, but our farmlands have been destroyed and cannot be used. Our water dam and everything else, he said. He said his initial losses had been valued at more than $1 million. We have special circumstances with our land and the state government needs to do more for primary producers, he said. MP calls for Reconstruction Commission. Ms. Saffin said the number of people who were underinsured or uninsured in flood-prone areas continued to be a concern. There needs to be leeway for everyone impacted, particularly by February 28 event, Ms. Saffin said. It was more than a flood, it was catastrophic. The damage that we suffered was catastrophic. We need an adequate response, including a reconstruction commission or authority. Business owner Brad Ricard is faced with the task of cleaning and repairing several flood-affected hospitality businesses in Lismore. Ms. Saffin said such an authority would allow for a flood response that would not be delayed by bureaucracy. At the moment it's agency by agency responding, and some of them, that's good stuff, but it's just not working, it's not cutting through, she said. We just need one body sitting there, saying, we're doing this. Evacuation orders lifted, but more rain to come. The evacuation orders for flood-affected parts of Lismore have just been lifted. The State Emergency Service said the all-clear had been given for residents and business owners to return to Lismore's CBD, along with North and South Lismore, to resume their cleanup. 5 other areas remain under evacuation orders in the state's north, including parts of Woodburn. The SES said rapid assessments were continuing to make sure it was safe for residents to return home. Evacuation orders have been lifted for the Lismore CBD, North Lismore, and South Lismore, as the flood cleanup continues. The Bureau of Meteorology is forecasting rainfall will hit much of coastal NSW in the second half of the week. Forecaster Jaiwan Park said areas south of Grafton were likely to be most affected, but the northern rivers would experience the rain as well. That's bad news for people in the North Coast region, because that could potentially bring another 20 or 30 or even 50 millimeters, or more widespread rain, during the latter part of the week, he said. However, Mr. Park said the forecasting models were still flexible and rainfall predictions would firm up as the week progressed.